Hey. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. It is your girl, Lauren Finesse. And we are back this week to talk about Love is Blind Season 6 and the episodes that dropped this week. Listen, it wasn't much. I gotta say this. It was not much, but we're going to get into it and we're going to deep dive because there were a couple things that kind of stood out. So we're going to deep dive and get into those. But before we do that, please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to my new subscribers. Y'all been turning your girl up. Y'all been showing love. So much appreciation to you guys. You'll love it here. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into these fools. So let's go ahead and get Laura and Jeremy out of the way. Okay, so since last week, a lot has changed in my opinion on most of these couples. Like the way that they were in the pods is kind of different than how I feel about them now. I will say this. We did ask, I know a lot of us, we did say we wanted more backstory in the pods because the past couple of seasons, we weren't seeing like these people fall in love, quote unquote, right, within the pods. So I know a lot of feedback was that we needed more time in the pods to see these relationships develop. And so this season, I can tell that Netflix absolutely gave us a lot of footage in the pods. So I'm not mad at it, but I think it was too much because now we're fooled. Like they fell in love in the pods and now it's like it was a fairy tale and it wasn't real. So let's talk about Laura and Jeremy, excuse me. So Jeremy and Laura wake up after the mixer. And if you guys remember from last week, Jeremy's dumbass decided to tell AD about the bean dip or bean flip, whatever, popping her in her boob. And like I said, I was on Laura's side because why are you saying this out loud? Why are you saying this to this person? We're kikiing. We're engaged. You're my man. This is kitchen table talk. This is like behind closed doors talk. This is, something you say to your friend. This is not something that you say in front of company, you idiot. So I'm glad that Jeremy woke up on the right side of the bed and realized how stupid he looked and how ridiculous he was for bringing that up. And, Laura forgave him. And so I think it was cool that she forgave him. It wasn't that deep, especially since he was apologetic. Now, they get back to the real world and you know what they do? They see each other's places. They meet each other's family. And Laura, I realized Laura talks too fucking much. Like I realized that she talks too much and it made me reflect on the mixer. Like, yeah, Jeremy was wrong for repeating a private conversation that they were having. But now I'm seeing that Laura talks so much that he probably just got caught up in it. So they meet each other's family and, well, actually, this was her family. They were at the house. Her family came by. And she is just telling her family everything about how he had another connection and how, that so Sarah Ann, just to take a step back, Sarah Ann messaged him on Instagram and he showed Laura the message, but he showed that he liked the message. And so Laura is telling her family like, oh, the other girl he was dating messaged him and he liked it. And she got on his case for like spilling all of their tea in mixed company. And I think she turned around and did the exact same thing. I don't think that her family needed to know how he, not responded, but how he liked a message from the other woman that he was supposed to be dating, right? It didn't need to be said in front of her parents. That was just weird. So anyway, she's telling the story and it's uncomfortable, but he makes a good impression with the family. So I think they at least like him. But then, so they're home and I guess he comes in at 6 a.m. And so now they're talking about it. This fool went out with the other guys from the season and they invited Sarah Ann out so that he could meet Sarah Ann. And apparently they met up and they talked until 5 o'clock in the morning, and he got home at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, he's dead ass wrong. Like, he is dead ass wrong. However, I will say this. It does make sense. Like, all of the people who had multiple connections, if you needed to, not if you needed to, but of course you want to see the other person that you had a connection with, because you already know what you've picked and you should be confident in that choice. But it also makes sense that you may want to see if the spark is there with the other person too. So while it was definitely messy for him to do it, he was honest. He did tell Laura. Laura is pissed. Look, as she should be. I'm not mad about it. She's pissed. But I got to give him credit for at least being honest about the situation. So we're going to see where they go. Let's just do predictions for them. They are not going to say yes. I think that too much has happened, and Laura seems very prideful, so I don't see her saying yes. And I believe that Jeremy is going to see Sarah Ann again. And it seems like Sarah Ann is like, she wants Jeremy. Like, she was talking to AD in one of the clips that's upcoming. And AD was like, he's engaged. Like, he picked her. And it seems like Sarah Ann is like, no, I still want him. So we'll see. But as far as them getting down the altar, I don't think either of them will say yes. They will not get married. All right, let's talk about AD and Clay, or Clay D as they call themselves. Such a disappointment. So for my last video, like I said, I was picking up on that I didn't think Clay was that into black women's, at least not dark-skinned black women's. I don't know. He gives that. He's absolutely sexually attracted to AD. Obviously, she is. She has an amazing body, yaddy, yaddy. But it's clear that I feel like he feels that he can do better. And it doesn't help that we find out in this episode that Clay's father used to cheat on his mom and take Clay, his child, along with him to go and cheat. So he has seen the cheatation firsthand. He's had a front row seat to his daddy being ain't shit. So it's kind of like, what do you expect from him when he was literally brought up in this? Like, literally brought up into cheating by way of his father. So before they leave the honeymoon, they're talking and he just gets quiet. They're sitting at breakfast and he just gets quiet. And, she's like, are you okay? What's wrong? And, he's like, well, I don't want to disappoint you. Like, I want to be married. I want to be in love. I want to do right by you. But I fear that I will disappoint you. And she's like, no, he said, I don't want to disappoint you. And she was like, why are you saying this? And he's being honest. And, she talks later with Jeremy and he's like, man, Clay is always he gets introspective and you can tell that the wheels are just turning and he has a lot on his mind and he's just like deep in thought. And so AD is like, okay, so he does that to everyone. It isn't just me. Because it clearly started to make AD feel a little insecure and uncomfortable in their relationship, because they were fine and laughing and joking. And then all of a sudden he's talking about he doesn't want to disappoint her. And so she's like, how did we get here? You know what I mean? So anyway, so they get back to the real world and they're at his house and his house is nice. And AD threw me off with this one. She was like, oh, I could see myself living here. I can see me having babies here. And I'm like, what, can you? Or are you just, girl? I was like, girl, are you serious? But, whatever. So they're cuddling. They do a lot of affection. Clearly they're having sex. But I don't think it's going to work. So anyway, they have lunch with his mom and his sister. And, apparently he doesn't come home every day. And he doesn't come home every day because he has some type of, I guess, jet ski, boat rental type business. And, on the weekends, people rent out his equipment. So he, I guess, wants to stay at a place that's closer to the rental, and that takes him away from the house. And, she hasn't gone back to work yet. And also, AD is, not only a real estate broker, but she's also a VIP manager at a club. So she's, she has a bit more of a flexible schedule. And, he's telling her, like, when you start back working, I'm going to have to be flexible with you too, because you work at a nightclub and you'll be coming home late. You know what I mean? So I'm just asking for some grace. And I understood him. I understood him at that point in time. Like, we both have, conflicting schedules, and they may not be on the same time schedule as each other. And so that's a real concern. That's a valid concern, and something that they're going to have to work on. But his mom, being, the wise one at the table, she's like, listen, you both have to make sacrifices for each other if you want it to work. Because, in a nutshell, people make time for the things and people that matter to them. And that's a fact. Like, no one is ever too busy to be around someone that they truly love and care about. Like, it just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, when you really care about someone, you will make the sacrifice. And so, it's looking like, I won't say, I know that there have been some comparisons online with Clay and AD, with Chris, I forget the girl's name, from Married at First Sight. I actually did watch that season. Chris was a manipulator. Now, she was annoying too. I forget the girl's name. She was annoying too, but Chris was absolutely a manipulator. I don't get that from Clay. I think that Clay is genuine, but he's in his head a lot. And it sucks that he's on a show about marriage and knowing that marriage is the final outcome, and he's having doubts about being married. And I'm like, why are you on the show if you are not? And self-admittedly, he has never been to therapy. So I think that before you get married and you go on a show where the end result, the end goal is to get married, you need to fix yourself completely first. And to me, it kind of feels like Clay has had a lot of surface relationships with probably really pretty women. And, I think AD does make him better in the sense that she challenges him and she's making him have to grow up. She's making him have to see himself. And it would be nice if they can grow and learn from it. But I feel like Clay, I just don't think he's ready at this time. And I believe that AD is ready. So we'll see what happens. I think them getting to the altar, I feel like AD, there's a part of me that feels like AD would say yes because she is going off of potential. I think Clay has the potential to be a really good husband. But AD is a boss ass bitch, and I don't foresee her saying yes if everything just isn't right. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, Clay has a lot of healing and growing to do. He's in his head. He thinks a lot. He's very deep, and it's like he knows what to say, but for me, and I don't know if y'all got this or not, for me, he does a lot of talking, but it's like, who are you trying to convince, yourself or me? Because I'm not convinced. So, and that's just me as a viewer. He does a lot of talking, but it's like, I don't even know if he believes it or if he's just saying it to make other people believe it. You know what I mean? So that's Clay and AD. I don't think that he'll say yes. He'll get in his head. And I don't think that she'll say yes if she feels like he's not ready. So I don't think that they'll get married either. And I'm sad because I think in a couple years it may have worked. Okay, y'all. So let's get these people out the way. I think in my last review, I might have been calling him Matthew, but his name is Johnny. I don't know if I was saying his name right or wrong, but literally Johnny and Amy are forgettable. They are boring, but they did give us a little something this week's in this week's episodes. So what I'm gathering is, they started having conversations about family planning and buying a house. And I get the feeling that Johnny may have grown up very poor because he is dead set on not having children until he can afford them. He doesn't want to have children until he has a house. And it's very stand up and it's commendable. But he is so strict on it that it almost sounds like it's coming from a place of lack. It's coming from a place of insecurity. It isn't like, I want to give my family the best shot and I'm going to work hard to do it. It's like, I'm not having kids. I'm not going to bring my kids up poor. I'm not, you know what I mean? It's it's coming from a place of insecurity. And Amy is more easygoing. She's like, hey, I don't mind if we have a baby. No, we don't want to plan it. But if we had a baby, we would be happy. You know what I mean? She's just going with the flow. And so I think that we need to learn more about his past. But that's what I'm getting from him, is that he grew up poor and he doesn't want his kids to grow up poor. And I totally get it. But he's going to need to be just a little bit flexible in this marriage with Amy, because she seems very happy-go-lucky and he is just a bit more stern. And it is what it is. They're boring. Moving on. Y'all, oh my goodness. Talk about disappointment. Okay, so last week I was like, they are the most genuine couple. They're so cute, talking about Kenneth and Britney. They're so cute. They're going to be great, da-da-da. But it was all a facade, y'all. Kenneth is a piece of shit, and he got some stuff going on with him, and we just going to have a keep it real moment. Okay, so first things first, he's already reserved, and I get it. She seems very nurturing and wants to be touchy-feely. And it sounds like when they had the talk on the honeymoon, that, he was a little apprehensive about touching her and feeling on her. And I hate to say it, but I do think that race is playing a factor. I think that after Kenneth's conversation with AD, it really put into perspective that, yeah, you are now in an interracial couple. And, he told Britney about the conversation that he had with AD. And I think that put some doubt in her mind. And so literally them talking about race seemed to kind of turn their relationship. It did a complete 180. As soon as they had that conversation about race, it just I think they started to realize that, being in an interracial relationship with their backgrounds, which, we haven't seen too much as of yet, it may be challenging. And unfortunately, I feel like Kenneth was really drilling it home, it's going to be hard, it's going to be challenging. And she was more on the fence of well, we'll be okay, we'll be fine. Sadly, that conversation completely ruined their vibe. So anyway, they get back to the real world. And this is where I was like, okay, Kenneth pissed me off. Kenneth was in that phone and he didn't put his phone down. And I was annoyed for Britney. It seemed like she wanted to connect. She wanted them to, learn each other and talk and be intimate as far as, kissing and touching, because it sounds like they both made an agreement that they weren't going to have sex before the marriage. But it's, you can still have intimacy without having sex. And so he was just in his phone. She's like, hey, are you going to help me unpack? And he's in his phone. And then he's like, I'm going to go downstairs. And then he went downstairs and he was in his phone. And then in the next scene, he was in his phone and she's trying to have a conversation with him and he's in his fucking phone. And then I'm like, okay, let me look deeper, because at first I was getting gentle giant from him because he was being very gentleman and, catering to her and how can I, be with you. But as soon as they got back to the real world, I started to look at him like, is he looking for a beard? There's a couple of different things going on. Okay. Kenneth, his mannerisms give me one of three things. The first thing is either he like men, okay, because he comes off, it's just very, I don't know. Like, he doesn't like women, because I just did not see a spark, okay, with him and Britney. Or 2, he was extremely insecure growing up. He is a big guy. He's tall. So I think maybe even if he was overweight, he probably carried it well, but I'm getting maybe he was insecure as a child and he doesn't know how to interact having a pretty woman, because Britney is a very pretty girl. Or the third thing is he just grew up around a lot of women. And I get that might actually be what's going on, because he's very feminine. And I started to see, like, he was talking to her and he was rolling his neck and he was giving like a lot of attitude. And I'm like, he is acting like somebody's auntie. And I was like, what happened to the gentle giant, the romantic man that he was on the honeymoon? Like, he turned into a completely different person. And I don't know what's going on in that phone, but I feel like someone in his family gave him some type of talk about him dating a white woman. He also mentioned he had been out all day, and he came back and he mentioned that he went to talk to his mentor. And I honestly feel like he has people in his ear, and he completely flipped on Britney. He completely flipped. Like, his whole attitude towards her, the way he was interacting with her was completely different than in the pods. And so, I think his family got in his ear, his friends got in his ear, and I don't think that he wants to deal with being in an interracial relationship and what that could possibly come with. And that's fine. I just wish he would have said that, because Britney then started to, she could feel the change. And she's like, you don't kiss me, you don't hug me. It's like, I know that we'd be good in a relationship, but I'm not getting that, butterflies in the stomach. And I thought when they had that conversation that Kenneth was going to kind of fight for her. But Kenneth was like, well, if you don't have butterflies in your stomach, then that's a real red flag. And I guess we shouldn't be together, because you shouldn't feel like that. And I was like, damn. He didn't even try to work through it together. He was just like, oh, okay, that's how you feel? Okay, well, then I guess we shouldn't be together. That's simple. And then he took his phone and he went upstairs. And Britney, this girl is like bawling her eyes out, sitting on the couch crying, and he then took his phone and went upstairs. And, I don't know who he called, but he called someone and was like, what's up? What you got going on? Okay, cool, I'm on my way. So he clearly left. And I was just like, ew, Kenneth is an asshole, and I don't like him. I don't like him. He absolutely did the bait and switch to this woman. And like I said, to me, I think his family got in his ear, especially after the conversation he had with AD. And I just think that he was not prepared to enter into an interracial marriage. And I think he cares too much about what the women in his life think. And I think that's why AD was drawn to him, because to me, he has a lot of feminine characteristics and ways, like his mannerisms, how he talks. It gives very much a bunch of women raised him. And I feel like those same women in his life got in his ear and was like, you better not bring that white girl home. What you doing with that white girl? You need to think about it. Think about what your life is going to be like with this white lady, da-da-da. I truly, truly, truly think that is what happened. And so they broke up. We don't even need to see anything further. They have officially broken up. He didn't try to fight for it, and she was just in tears. So that's clear that Kenneth and Britney, who seem to have so much promise and hope, yeah, it's a no. Okay, let's go ahead and get forehead and goofball out the way. Okay, and listen, they could be both of those names. Just pick one. Pick and choose. Forehead and goofball. All right. Let me say this. Chelsea, I hate her. Not hate. Hate is a strong word. Chelsea is disgusting. Chelsea is exhausting. Chelsea is draining. Chelsea is manipulative. Like, there's so many adjectives for Chelsea that are negative. It's not even funny. We all side-eyed Jimmy. we side-eyed him. We weren't feeling Jimmy, but God bless Jimmy for even dealing with this lady, because this lady is a basket case and her insecurity is like next level, and she gaslights. Like, actually they gaslight each other, but okay, let's just get into it. So we know where we left off, where he was apologizing till the cows came home about how she said he wasn't showing her any attention at the mixer while they were on the honeymoon. Again, if you recall from last week, I'm like, he apologized. She seemed to receive it. She grabbed his hand, and then he would say something else and she would spiral again. And she did the exact same thing this week. So clearly that's just her personality. She likes having a problem. She looks for the problem, and it's annoying. So they're on the honeymoon. It seems like they were able to get back on track. He is having to reassure her every 5 minutes. And like, let me tell y'all, I have been in a relationship like that, where I have had to reassure my partner every 5 minutes. Needless to say, we are not together anymore. It's like, we're together. I shouldn't have to keep telling you every single day, we're fine, we're good, I'm here, I love you, the relationship is good, we're fine. Like, it gets to a point where you get frustrated and tired. Like, it's exhausting. And so watching this was almost triggering to me, because I'm like, I've been in a relationship where the other person just needs constant reassurance, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy, and it isn't sustainable. That's not something that you can sustain in a relationship long term. It just isn't. At some point, you have to trust who you're with, and the love has to be stronger than your insecurities, or you just won't be together. So Chelsea's insecure. They bounce back a little bit on the honeymoon, but now it's time to go to the real world, and the real world is messy. So apparently, they get back to the real world and they have to work, right? So Chelsea's friends come over to the house, and she's telling them, oh, he was so popular in the pod. And it's like, oh, there it is. She wanted to be picked by the quote unquote popular guy. Like, that's what I'm getting from Chelsea. And Jimmy was not even popular like that in the pod. Girl, one other person was on him. Okay, just one. And you were the other person. So everybody had two connections. So slow down. She made it seem to her friends like, oh, he was just, the popular guy in high school. She was giving very much Melissa from Love After Lockup, Melissa and Louis. Girl, this is a high school. So anyway, she's talking to her friends. She's telling them, what's going on. And then she says, he hasn't kissed me all day today. And they were like, what? He hasn't kissed you? And so she makes this a whole big thing. So the friends, he comes down, he meets the friends, and, they're laughing and joking. And, he's literally saying all of the right things. He's talking to her friends, and he's like, I like Chelsea. I'm glad I picked her. I'm happy here. I love her. She's beautiful. He is doing all of this affirming, okay? And all she has to do is receive it. But instead, you could tell that the wheels are turning in her big ass head. She's like, something is still wrong. Like, she's one of those people that look for an issue. She's looking for something to be off. So the friends leave, and she goes right at him. She's like, well, I feel like you were being different with me today, because after you saw that picture of Jessica. And so apparently messy ass Jeremy, who is being messy with Sarah Ann in his own relationship, well, apparently he reached out to Jimmy and was like, hey, have you seen Jessica? And showed him her Instagram. So Jimmy, being upfront, he tells Chelsea, hey, I did see a picture of Jessica, which he didn't have to tell her, but he did. And that sent her through a hula hoop. Like, she completely lost her shit after that, because, again, she's one of those people that looks for problems. So she says to him, like, after you seen that picture of Jessica, you didn't give me a kiss all day. You were acting different. It's like, did the picture, is that what made you act funny? And he's like, no. He's like, I've been busy. I bit my lip. Like, some of these excuses were like, okay, you bit your lip, but the way he was acting was not as if he wasn't into her. So it's like, I feel like she's causing an issue, and he's just, he has to basically make up excuses as to why he's acting this way. And either there's an underlying issue, which, there may be, or he just needs to, kind of stand up to her. And I think that's probably what she needs, but we'll see. So he calms her down and he's like, no, it's not like that. I thought we had a good day. Your friends were here. I love your friends, da, da, da. And she seems to calm down, but then she goes in deeper and she's like, well, I don't know. You didn't give me a kiss all day. And he's like, I gave you a kiss this morning. I also gave you a kiss right before you went down to talk to your friends and I went into my meeting. And she was like, did you? And I'm like, girl, I know you didn't just make this huge deal about him not kissing you, and then he says he kissed you twice, and you're questioning it. So it's like, are you looking for an issue? Did he not kiss you, or did he, but you're so insecure that you don't even know if he did or not? It's so stupid. Like, this is what I mean. Who is arguing about something like this? So he comes over and he gives her a hug and a kiss, and he's like, I'm sorry, da da da. And she's like, well, I don't need you to be sorry. Like, is this about Jessica? She says Jessica's name again. And I was with him. Me and him had the exact same face at the exact same time. He was like, what, Jessica? Like, they had a whole conversation about the friends and not having a kiss and work, and he bit his lip. And she brought the conversation back around to Jessica. Like, it caught him off guard. It caught me off guard. Like, girl, what? He was like, this has nothing to do with Jessica. Like, what are you doing? He was like, actually, you're being clingy. Why did he say that? Now she is at the kitchen counter having a breakdown because he called her clingy. How dare you? Fuck you for calling me clingy. And I'm just like, girl, are you mad that he didn't give you a kiss? Are you mad that he saw what Jessica looked like? Are you mad? Like, what exactly is the issue? Because no matter what he says, you're going to find a new issue. So, like, you got too many issues, girl. Okay, you're like a magazine. You got way too many issues, okay? So, he's like, again, he's just standing there like, what the fuck? I'm looking like, what the fuck? And so she's like, well, I'm leaving. So, he goes upstairs and he starts packing his stuff up and he leaves. So, then the next day, here she is again. She's laying across the bed. He comes in the room and she's smiling. And now you could see that they've kind of made up a little bit. And, he had said something when they were arguing to the effect of, she wanted to have sex with him. And, she was like, well, you're calling me clingy because I want to have sex with you. So the next day when they saw each other, she brings that up again. And he's like, listen, I didn't mean that you're clingy in a bad way, like it's something that we can't come back from. I don't think that you're clingy in that respect. But yeah, I needed a little bit of a breather because it's a lot. And, she seemed to receive it, but this is her pattern. This is Chelsea's pattern. She finds a problem. She upsets herself. She wants to cry and pout and be the victim, literally the forever victim, the perpetual victim. And then she forgives when she comes down from her victimhood. She's like, oh yeah, I guess that was stupid. And then they make up. So Chelsea is exhausting. I mean, exhausting to the 10th power. And I don't think that it will be possible for Jimmy to consistently keep up with it. Like I said, I've been in that situation. That is not a pace that you can keep in a relationship. Like, it just isn't. And so anyway, let's talk about the people that didn't, get picked. So we already talked about Sarah Ann and Jeremy. They are going to see each other again. But Jimmy is also going to see Jessica. And I can't wait because, yeah, Jessica is gorgeous. Megan Knox she knows that Jessica is gorgeous. And so it's going to be interesting to see. Also, Jessica still likes Jimmy. And that is going to be interesting because Jimmy wants to make it work. He does. But Chelsea is so exhausting that she's making it hard. There's a scene where upcoming for next week where where Chelsea is yelling at Jimmy saying, I know you fucked her, talking about Jessica, I'm assuming. But then as you continue to watch the preview, Chelsea is in a wedding dress smiling. So it's like, okay, you picked a fight with him about nothing, I'm assuming, and he talked you down again, I'm assuming, and now you're all smiles again after causing chaos and drama. So final answer, if Jimmy has a brain, he will say no. Chelsea will absolutely say yes, but if Jimmy has a brain, he'll say no. If Jimmy says yes, then I hope they stay together forever, because please do not put Jimmy or Chelsea back into the dating pool and ruin it for other people. Let's just let them be together. If they're going to be together, then please let them be together so that they are not a headache for anybody else. All right, you guys, that wraps up this week's episode. I gave you guys another half hour plus. Please go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys back here next week as we talk about the conclusion to Love is Blind Season 6. It has been a doozy so far, so we'll see what happens next week. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.